Imagine stepping out into the crisp morning air, the smell of salt and seaweed sharp in your nostrils. Before you, stretching like a dark mirror, lay the sea. Your boat waits, sleek and silent, mirroring the grey sky above. Beside you stand your crew, faces weathered and strong, their eyes as sharp as the prow of your ship. Today, you leave the sheltered coast for the open sea, eager for adventure, riches, and the thrill of the unknown. But do you have what it takes to survive? A Viking voyage was more than a test of skill. It was a trial of endurance. Storms could shatter your vessel, and icy waves could swallow even the most seasoned sailor. On deck, you gripped the mast, battling the urge to cry out as a wave the size of a house crashed over you, stealing your breath and chilling you to the bone. Salt water stung your eyes, but you dared not falter. With a grunt, you hauled yourself back onto the pitching deck, adrenaline surging through you. Around you, your crew members moved with practiced grace, their bodies swaying with the rhythms of the sea. Each had honed their skills through years of practice, reading the moods of the ocean and the wind. Unlike their longships on rivers and lakes, Viking ships on the open sea were smaller, nimbler vessels. Yet they were just as unforgiving. Seafaring Vikings were men who had embraced the harshest challenges their world offered. They navigated not just by the stars, but by sheer grit and determination. The open sea tested not just the ship and the crew, but each man's resolve. Seasickness could weaken even the strongest arm. Fear could paralyze the best navigator, and exhaustion could cloud the sharpest mind. It was a battle against the elements, against doubt, and ultimately against time. If the skies turned dark and the winds rose as they approached land, they had little choice but to ride out the storm. But if the storm struck them at sea, their fate hung in the balance. Now let us turn our attention from the unpredictable fury of the ocean to the unpredictable fury of human nature. Settle back into the thatch-roofed longhouse, where shadows lengthen and the fire has dimmed. The night is alive with activity. Men drink deeply from their horns, their voices rising in tales of battle and daring deeds. Women weave and gossip, their nimble fingers flying, their laughter echoing through the hall. Suddenly the door slides back, admitting a newcomer. His face is grim, his armor dusty. He is a warrior, come from campaigns in distant lands. As he enters, the music stops, the laughter dies. All eyes turn towards him, for he brings news that can shake the foundations of their world. The arrival of a traveler like this was an event in itself. Not only did they bring news from distant lands, but they carried with them stories, goods, and sometimes diseases from places unknown. These visitors were more than just storytellers, they were carriers of change. The Viking world was one of constant exchange, whether it was through trade, raiding, or diplomacy. The influx of new ideas and products could be as disruptive as it was exciting. The longhouse buzzed again, this time with the energy of anticipation. The warrior spoke of battles fought under scorching suns and of markets filled with treasures beyond imagination. But his words held another note, one of caution, of the perils he had faced and barely escaped. His tales were not just of victory, but also of loss. He spoke of comrades lost to the unforgiving seas, of battles that had left men broken and villages in ruins. And then he shared the tales that made men's eyes gleam and their hands itch for weapons. Stories of great victories, of treasures seized, of enemies vanquished. The young men in the hall leaned forward, drinking in every word. To them, the warrior was a hero, a living embodiment of courage and strength. As the evening deepened, so did the stories. The warrior spoke of raids on monasteries, of battles with Anglo-Saxon armies, of the clash of steel under the cold gaze of the northern sun. He described the thrill of the charge, the camaraderie of battle, and the sobering cost of war. To some, these tales were a call to action, a reminder of the strength that lay dormant within them, waiting for its chance to shine. Others, older and wearier, listened with a mix of admiration and sorrow, their faces etched with the memories of their own battles past. But the warrior's stories didn't end with violence and conquest. He spoke of bustling marketplaces in the Byzantine Empire, of cathedrals filled with gold in Francia, of the exotic wonders of the Middle East. He brought back spices that made the simplest meal taste like a feast, silks that glistened like moonlight on water, and jewels that glittered with the captured fire of distant stars. These tales and treasures were not just for the amusement or profit of the village, but served as a reminder of the wider world, a world that was at once dangerous and captivating. Every visitor brought with them the seeds of change, and it was up to the villagers to decide what to plant. The rhythmic pulse of village life continued after the travelers' tales had ended and the longhouse had settled into the soft glow of twilight. But something had shifted. Like the tide, new ideas and experiences had washed over the community, leaving behind treasures and questions that would shape their path forward. Much like the tides that rhythmically ebbed and flowed along the rugged coastline, life in a Viking village followed its own cycles. There were times of joyful celebration when the rhythm quickened, and there were moments of somber remembrance when the drums of life beat a slower tune. Weddings were joyous affairs, a cause for feasting and merriment. Music swelled, mead flowed, and the younger generation joined hands in solemn vows, promising love and support. It was a time for the village to come together, not just to celebrate the union of two individuals, but to reaffirm the bonds that held their community together. Funerals, on the other hand, were marked by a deep solemnity. When death touched a family, the entire village mourned with them. The body was laid to rest with ceremony, often on a funeral pyre, a final act of communal care. The villagers gathered around, sharing stories of the departed, keeping vigil until the flames died down and only embers remained. The cycle of life and death was ever present in their rituals, a steady rhythm that underscored every aspect of their existence. Amidst these solemn rites, the simple pleasures of daily life provided moments of respite. Fishing trips on the tranquil lake, the satisfaction of a successful hunt, or the peaceful evenings spent mending nets or weaving cloth. These everyday activities weren't just means to an end. They were threads that wove the fabric of their lives. Life in a Viking village was a tapestry woven with the threads of struggle and solace, hardship and hope. Just as the seasons changed, so did their lives, a continuous cycle of challenge and comfort, loss and love, all set against the backdrop of a world that was as harsh as it was beautiful. By now, you may have formed an image of the Viking way of life. If you are listening to learn, you may be contemplating how your own life compares or contrasts. If you are listening to rest, you may feel as though you have stepped back in time. Either way, know that this is a snapshot from a moment long past. Their world was not static, but evolving, and no matter how difficult or idyllic their lives may seem, theirs was a world much like ours, full of joy and pain, triumph and loss, adventure and peace. As we bring our journey to a close, we leave behind the thatched longhouses and the rugged longships. We carry with us the spirit of the Viking Age, the rhythm of a life lived in harmony with nature, and the resilience of a community bound by shared challenges. Perhaps you have gained a glimpse into a life so different from your own, or perhaps you found echoes of your own world in theirs. Whatever you take away, know that this moment of shared history is a bridge across the ages, connecting us to those who lived, loved, and dreamed under skies much like our own. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May the rest of your day be filled with moments of peace as you navigate your own life's journey. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and above all, stay balanced. Let's go back to this longhouse. This is it. We will come inside and look at what lurks in the shadows. Outside, Night has fallen. The light of day struggles between the clouds and the sea. Soon it will vanish completely. But in the longhouse, lamps hang from the roof beams, casting shadows on the walls and masking shapes in darkness. Shadows dance and twist. Who or what do they hide? First, consider the size of this structure. Its length may impress, yet its width is modest, similar to the homes of farmers and fishermen. Only the gables here seem grander, taller, hinting at the status within. For in the heart of this hall stood the chieftain's high seat, a platform raised above the floor, complete with backrest, armrests, and a small table. The seat faced the entrance, allowing the chieftain to survey all who entered, but also commanded the best view of any performance or gathering. Few would sit on the chieftain's seat. It was a place for honored guests, too, for their comfort to be prioritized, or for rituals to show power or welcome important allies. Imagine visitors approaching the high seat, walking the worn planks, and mounting the steps to sit before the chief. Their presence announced, their status acknowledged. The chieftain leaned back, hands resting on the backrest, fingers drumming the wood lightly. Every tap a silent command, every pause a question. No cushioned chair, only the bare wood beneath him, yet a space to hold authority, to project presence. As we peer closer, other details emerge, hints of the chieftain's life and status. A shield hung on the wall, bearing the emblem of his line, a wolf's head snarling. Beneath it lay weapons, not just for war, but for hunting, a boar spear, a knife with a handle carved like a bear's muzzle. Across from the high seat, a loom stood ready, a testament to the domesticity that balanced the chieftain's life, reminding him that while strength was vital, so were the threads of trade and the fabric of family. Perhaps a visitor arrives, a young woman carrying a length of finely woven cloth, its patterns bright against the dark wood. She lays it on the small table, her hands smoothing the folds. The chieftain's wife, Astrid, moves toward them, her own cloth bag in hand, her movements sure and quiet. They speak in low voices, bargaining for value, assessing worth. The cloth, likely woven by Astrid herself, will become part of a larger trade, bound for distant lands, its value measured in silver, in stories carried along trade routes, in the intangible worth of a bond between two households. At the far end of the longhouse, a brazier crackles, sending sparks up the chimney, chased away by the rising smoke. The scent of burning wood mingles with the smell of roasting meat, creating an aroma that marks sustenance, warmth, and a boundary between the mundane world and the realm of shadow and flame. Light flickers on a face leaning close. An old man with hair like spun silver, eyes that hold the glint of distant stars. He stirs the embers, his gnarled hands moving with practiced ease. Nearby, a horned drinking vessel stands ready, waiting for the mead to flow once more. The air hums with the murmur of conversation, laughter echoing against the wooden pillars. A group of men sit close, their faces half in shadow, revealing only glimpses of smiles, nods, or furrowed brows. Among them sits the chieftain's son, Einar, his gaze alert, observing his father and the scene around him. He listens intently as his father speaks, his young mind absorbing the lessons shared. When the moment comes for response, Einar finds his voice, articulating thoughts honed by countless hours spent at his father's side. As the evening deepens, the flickering lamplight casts dancing shadows on the walls. The men raise their horns in a silent toast, each man contemplating his own thoughts. Some are dreams of exploration, others of battles won or losses borne. Still, others dwell on the simple joys of hearth and home. Then suddenly the door opens, admitting a sliver of the chilling night. A young warrior steps inside, his face etched with urgency. He delivers a message, his words sharp and clear, cutting through the merriment like a knife through butter. The men's laughter subsides, replaced by murmurs of concern. The chieftain listens, his expression unreadable, his eyes betraying none of the turmoil within. He runs a hand over his beard, a habit born of countless decisions made, victories claimed, and losses mourned. After a long silence, he speaks, his voice resonating with quiet authority, guiding the men toward action. The atmosphere shifts from camaraderie to preparation. The men move with purpose, readying themselves for the task at hand. The feast, once a celebration, becomes a hurried affair, the joy replaced by the solemnity of duty. Now our attention turns to the chieftain's wife, Astrid. She stands at the loom, her nimble fingers flying across the threads. The vibrant colors of the cloth she weaves seem to mock the grim events unfolding outside. Despite the tension, Astrid remains focused, each thread a testament to her resilience, her dedication to her craft, and her role in maintaining the balance of her household. In the heart of the longhouse, the chieftain prepares to leave. His weathered face reflects the weight of his impending journey. Beside him stands Einar, his young son, mirroring his father's stoic expression. As the chieftain straps on his armor, a ritual of preparation for the dangers that lie ahead, Einar watches, his gaze filled with a mixture of admiration and apprehension. The bond between them, forged in love and respect, is about to be tested. With the preparations complete, the men step out into the darkness. The icy wind biting at their faces, the chieftain turns to Einar, his voice a low rumble. He imparts words of wisdom, a lifetime of experience distilled into a few sentences. He speaks of courage, strategy, and the bonds of loyalty that have seen them through countless challenges. As the chieftain rides away, the shadows lengthen, stretching across the longhouse like grasping fingers. Astrid stops weaving, her gaze following her husband's retreating form. Beside her, Einar reaches out, seeking comfort in his mother's presence. In the tapestry she weaves, threads of worry mingle with those of hope, forming a vibrant yet uneasy pattern. Fear tugs at her heart, but she pushes it down, focusing on the task at hand. Each loop she makes is a prayer for her husband's safe return, each color a silent promise that life, like her weaving, will go on. Back in the longhouse, the brazier has lost its cheer, the meat grown cold. The absence of the chieftain and the young warrior creates a disquieting silence. The men inside, unable to help, can only wait and watch. Time slows, each ticking second echoing the anxieties in their hearts. Hours crawl by, the darkness deepening until a new light pierces the gloom. A triumphant yell rings out, chasing away the shadows. The chieftain and the warrior stand silhouetted against the rising sun, returning like heroes from a bygone age. Relief washes over the men, their faces breaking into smiles. But the joy is tinged with understanding. The ordeal has tested them, forging a stronger bond of brotherhood. Together, they confront whatever perils may lie ahead, united by the shared experience of the long night and the dawning of a new day. So now you must leave the longhouse and make your way to the shore. There, you will see a fleet of ships ready to carry you and others to far-off lands. In the bowsprit of the largest ship, a raven sits proudly, its keen eyes scanning the horizon. To the Vikings, the raven was a messenger, a symbol of Odin, their god of wisdom and death. The Vikings believed that when a great leader died, his soul would soar to Valhalla, the majestic hall in Asgard ruled by Odin. Valhalla was not just a destination, but a reflection of the values the Vikings cherished. Strength, courage, and loyalty were celebrated, even in death. The raven, on the ship's bowsprit, served as a reminder of this belief, a silent sentinel watching over the living as they ventured into the unknown depths of the sea. When you sail away from the longhouse, you take with you the echoes of the conversations held, the shadows cast by the firelight, and the secrets whispered by the wind. The journey is not just across the water, but through a realm where the boundaries between life and legend blur. And as you navigate the waves, You'll feel the spirit of the Vikings urging you forward, their legacy carried on the wings of the wind and the cry of the raven. If you enjoyed this immersive journey into the life of a Viking chieftain, please support us to bring more historical adventures to life. It's easy to get lost in the vastness of history. It feels endless, almost as if the past is a foreign country that we can visit but never truly inhabit. How do we make history feel real when it's reduced to dates and dusty textbooks? And that's why I've started telling these stories. History comes alive when we focus on the details. When we look for the past, it is often the stones that speak the loudest. In the Viking world, memory was not only carried in voices and sagas, it was carved into stone. Across Scandinavia, you will find tall standing stones etched with strange, angular symbols. These are the runes, the written script of the Vikings. To us, they seem mysterious, like a code from a forgotten age. But to them, they were more than writing. They carried magic, memory, and meaning. A rune could mark a grave, honor a fallen warrior, or even cast protection over a ship. The shapes are sharp, cut so they could be carved into wood or stone. Imagine running your hand across one, shallow grooves worn smooth by centuries of weather. Some stones tell us only names. Here lies so-and-so, son of this man, beloved of his kin. Others are longer, hinting at voyages to distant lands or battles fought far away. And yet, for all we know, much remains hidden. The runes do not give us full stories, only fragments, like half-faded whispers across time. We can never be entirely sure what the Vikings truly believed about them, whether they saw them simply as letters or as something sacred, perhaps both. These runestones are scattered across Scandinavia, like the grave sites of ancient storytellers. Here in Sweden, there are hundreds, mostly from the Viking Age, 8th to 11th century AD. But similar stones are found throughout Northern Europe, stretching back through time. In Germany, you might see a simple memorial. In Denmark, a monument to a mighty king. On the coast of Scotland, a warning to any who dare disturb the dead. Each one a fragment of a story, and together they form a kind of map, showing where people once lived, traveled and traded, where they honored their dead and celebrated their victories. Some are shaped like altars, others like tombs. Some have pictures carved beside the words. One shows a man fishing, another two warriors locked in combat. One depicts a boat with 9 men inside. All of these details point to stories, but like any map, they leave just as many questions unanswered. Why did they choose this place? What happened here? And most hauntingly, what has been lost? To read the runes, we need more than just their shape. We need to understand the world they came from, a world that was never static, always changing, always interacting. As you travel around Sweden, you will notice a pattern. Many of the stones are made of granite, a hard rock that needed tools made of bronze or iron to shape it. This means that these monuments did not appear overnight. Making them took time, skill, and resources. That suggests a society that was not just living, but thriving. And it tells us that these stones weren't just markers, they were statements. Those who erected them wanted to be seen. They wanted their deeds to be remembered. But why? Memory is a powerful thing. It connects us to those who came before and gives us a sense of belonging. Imagine a young Viking looking up at a runestone, tracing the grooves with a finger and hearing tales of their ancestors. These stones became part of their identity, shaping how they saw themselves and their place in the world. It's a lesson we can still learn today. In a world that changes fast, it's easy to forget our roots. But maybe that's where we should start. Maybe by remembering where we came from, we can better understand who we are and where we're going. But there is more to these stones than just memory. They are also a window into the Viking worldview. Take, for example, the famous Kensington runestone in Minnesota. Carved by Norse explorer and probably a little bit magical, It tells the story of a man named Gorm who sailed across the sea to a land of giants and monsters. He fought fierce battles and endured hardship until finally reaching the shores of Vinland, now believed to be Newfoundland, Canada. Did this really happen? Maybe, maybe not. But the story itself tells us a lot. The Vikings were known for their seafaring skills and their willingness to explore new lands. They traveled all over Europe, Asia, and even North America, long before Columbus ever set sail. But it wasn't just about exploring the physical world. For the Vikings, the journey was also spiritual. They believed that the world was full of magic and mystery, and their gods and monsters were as real to them as the sun and the moon. So when we read about Gorm's battle with the giants, we're not just reading about a fight. We're seeing the Vikings' view of the world, a world where humans were not the center of everything, but part of a greater whole. We can learn a lot from these stories, not just about the past, but about ourselves. They remind us that the world is bigger than we think, and that there are other ways of seeing the world besides our own. They challenge us to look beyond the horizon and to never stop exploring. Whether we're talking about physical journeys or spiritual ones, the Vikings were masters of both. Their ships took them to distant lands, and their beliefs took them to another dimension. And let's not forget about the treasures. When the Vikings went on a voyage, they didn't just take food and water. They brought their gods along too. Each ship had its own spirit, and the crew made sure to honor it with sacrifices and prayers. After all, you don't want to mess with the gods, especially when you're at sea. But it wasn't just about appeasing the gods. It was also about connecting with them. The Vikings believed that the gods were with them, guiding them and protecting them on their travels. It's like having a guardian angel, except this guardian angel was a god of thunder. Now, not all Viking ships were created equal. Some were small and fast, used for scouting or trading. Others were huge and powerful, built for war or exploration. But no matter the size, every ship was a marvel of engineering. They were the fastest and most maneuverable boats of their time, with deep hulls and square sails that could catch the wind from any direction. This gave the Vikings an edge on the seas, allowing them to explore farther and fight harder than anyone else. But it also meant that they left behind the familiar shores and sailed into the unknown. And what could be more exciting than that? But even the mightiest ship could not conquer the final frontier: death. That's right. When a Viking died at sea, they didn't just throw their body overboard, they buried it with the ship. Well, not literally buried, more like sunk. Imagine a massive funeral at sea, complete with sacrifices, prayers, and maybe even a feast. Then the ship was lowered into the depths, taking the body and all the treasures with it. It was a fitting end for a Viking, a celebration of their life and their death. But it also served a practical purpose. A ship was a source of power for the Vikings, and they wanted to keep that power even in death. By sinking the ship, they were ensuring that it would be ready to carry them into the afterlife. And what could be more metal than that? Now, you might be wondering why we even know all this. Well, it's thanks to the ice. You see, these ship burials were usually done in a hurry. The Vikings didn't want to waste time mourning, so they preferred to get straight to the partying. This meant that the ships were often filled with treasures, weapons, and even food, all of which were designed to help the Viking in the afterlife. But it also meant that they didn't always have time to hide the evidence. Over the centuries, these ship burials have been discovered all over Scandinavia, from Norway to Sweden to Denmark. And each one is a treasure trove of information, literally. Archaeologists have found everything from gold coins to silver goblets to bronze swords. They've even found animal bones, which suggests that the Vikings brought their pets along for the ride. Some of the most famous ship burials include the Oseberg, the Tuna, and the Gillestian. Each one is unique and tells us something different about the Viking way of life. For example, the Oseberg burial includes a huge longship, a treasure hoard, and even a tapestry depicting scenes from Norse mythology. It's like opening a time capsule from the Viking Age. So the next time you hear about Viking ship burials, don't just think of them as wacky rituals. Think of them as portals to the past. They may be gone, but they're certainly not forgotten. In fact, they're still teaching us new things about the Vikings every day. And who knows what secrets they're hiding. Maybe one day we'll discover a ship filled with unicorns or dragons. Okay, probably not dragons, but you never know. And so we come to the end of today's journey. From the salt spray of the open sea, to the warmth of the longhouse hearth, to the silent witness of rune stones and ship burials, we have walked alongside the Vikings in their many lives. What stands out most is not only their power or their voyages, but their humanity. They were farmers, traders, storytellers and seekers, men and women bound by the same hopes and fears we carry today. They loved, they mourned, they celebrated, and they searched for meaning in a world both beautiful and harsh. History often reaches us in fragments, a carving in stone, a shard of pottery, a saga's half-remembered tale. And yet, in those fragments, we find enough to glimpse the whole, enough to feel the heartbeat of a people long gone. Perhaps that is what makes the past so enduring, not its distance, but its closeness. For when we pause to listen, really listen, we discover that the lives of those before us are never fully lost. They linger, waiting to be remembered. So as you set this episode aside and return to your day, carry with you a single thought. The past is never only behind us. It is under our feet, in the stones we pass, in the words we speak, in the traditions that still echo. The Vikings lived more than 1,000 years ago, but in some quiet way, they still live through us. Thank you for listening. Until next time, when we open another door to history, may your days be steady, your thoughts deep, and your journeys guided by curiosity. Today, we followed the Viking story from their beginnings as Scandinavian seafarers to their evolution into explorers, traders, and conquerors. We've seen how they adapted their ships to navigate the seas and raided coastal settlements for wealth and glory. But it's also been a journey into the hearts and minds of these legendary people. We've witnessed their religious beliefs, their values, and their everyday life, as well as their contributions to art, literature, and culture. But now it's time to take one last look at this captivating chapter of history. To wrap up our exploration of the Viking Age, we want to hear from you. What surprised you the most about the Vikings? Was it their seafaring skills, their art, their religion, or something else entirely? Let us know in the comments below. In this vast ocean of history, there are countless stories that deserve to be told. And we've barely scratched the surface of the Vikings' legacy. There's so much more to discover, from their complex society and economy to their interactions with other cultures. But if you want to continue exploring these uncharted waters, we've got you covered. We've carefully selected 3 books that will take you deeper into the world of the Vikings. First up, we recommend The Viking Spirit by Neil Price, a renowned historian who brings a fresh perspective to Viking studies. In this book, Price challenges traditional views of the Vikings as ferocious warriors and explores the complexities of their society, economy, and culture. If you're interested in understanding the Vikings as real people with rich traditions and values, this is the book for you. Next, we suggest The Saga of the Volsungs, translated by Jesse L. Byock. This book is a must-read for anyone who wants to experience the epic tales of the Norsemen firsthand. Byock's translation brings the sagas to life with vivid language and compelling characters. Whether you're a fan of adventure stories or want to learn more about Norse mythology and folklore, this book is sure to captivate you. Finally, we recommend Blood in the Water, The Goths, Vandals, and Huns Who Bathed Europe in Blood by Michael Jones. While not solely focused on the Vikings, this book provides a gripping account of the various Germanic peoples who left their mark on European history. Jones masterfully weaves together the stories of these fascinating tribes, bringing their customs, beliefs, and impact to life. If you're looking for a thrilling ride through the past, this book is for you. As you dive into these recommended reads, we encourage you to engage with the content. Take notes, highlight passages, and jot down your thoughts and reactions. Remember, you can always share your insights with us and other fellow learners in the comments section. And if you find these books as captivating as we do, don't hesitate to spread the word. Share your discoveries with friends and family who might also appreciate these literary treasures. Your recommendations can introduce others to the wonders of Viking history and inspire them to embark on their own learning adventures. If you found this series enlightening and want to support our work, we invite you to show your support. Your generosity helps us continue producing quality educational content and reaching more history enthusiasts like yourself. As we conclude this journey through time, let's take a moment to reflect on the impact the Vikings have had on history. Their legacy lives on in the places they explored, the artifacts they left behind, and the stories that have been passed down through the ages. The Vikings were true pioneers, and their spirit of adventure and exploration continues to inspire us today. They remind us that with courage, determination, and a thirst for knowledge, we can navigate the uncharted waters of life and make our dreams a reality. But our exploration doesn't have to end here. You can keep the journey going by visiting the links in the description below. We've curated a collection of resources that will allow you to delve deeper into the world of the Vikings. So go ahead, dive into the additional materials, and let your curiosity guide you. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure through history. We've had the pleasure of exploring the fascinating world of the Vikings alongside you, and we hope you've enjoyed every moment of it. But before we say goodbye, we want to send a special shout-out to our supporters. Your generosity and passion for history have made a significant impact on this series and have allowed us to bring these captivating stories to life. For those of you who have joined us on this journey, we extend our deepest gratitude. Your support means the world to us and inspires us to continue creating engaging and educational content for history enthusiasts like yourself. To everyone who has watched, commented, liked, and shared our videos, we thank you for being an integral part of our community. Your enthusiasm for history is contagious, and it's been a joy to share these incredible discoveries with you. As we say goodbye for now, remember that the spirit of adventure and exploration lives on within us all. Just like the Vikings, we have the ability to explore uncharted territories, discover hidden gems, and push the boundaries of our knowledge. Keep that Viking spirit alive and never stop exploring. Thank you once again for being a part of our journey. Until we meet again in our next adventure, may your curiosity lead you to exciting discoveries, and may you always find inspiration in the stories of our past. Stay curious, keep exploring, and let your passion for history guide you to new horizons.